But our optimism of the Texas it is and the Texas it can be cannot and should not cause us to lose sight of some of the vulnerable in our society: helpless, hopeless, jobless. I want everybody to have the opportunity to be all they can be. To me, the best investments that we can do are investments that give Texans the tools of self-sufficiency, a world-class education, quality, affordable health care, a stable, dependable business climate that encourages entrepreneurs to build successful companies, and where workers can make better income. These are the kinds of investments that we must make in good times and bad. But government can't solve every problem or address every ill. Centralized government that attempts too much achieves too little. This morning at the prayer service, Pastor Richard was talking about God-given faith-fueled vision. And he was talking about standing on the wall for God. Pastor Young, Dr. Young, on leadership, urging the governor and myself and all of our elected officials to stand, to be stewards to God and to the people. For those of all of us who've been very blessed over the years, I think we've got a very special calling to serve and sacrifice to help people. Service and sacrifice are what define our greatest generation. The men and women who fought tyranny in the trenches of Europe, on the islands of the Pacific, on the high seas and at high altitudes. During World War II, 750,000 Texans, 12,000 women served in World War II. Governor Perry's dad and my dad. My father was one, an ordinary Texan who went to war, did his job, became a highly decorated B-26 bomber pilot, flying 85 missions over Nazi Europe. His bombardier is still alive, and we talked to him. Every time he roared down that runway, he knew it might be his last. But he did it anyway, just like your fathers did and your grandfathers. I've been to the shores of Normandy, where thousands and thousands of brave Americans are buried. Americans who made the ultimate sacrifice. The indescribable peace that permeates such hallowed ground, where heroes rest, the silence speaks. It just wasn't my dad or Rick's dad and the millions of servicemen who sacrificed. It was everybody in America. Everybody sacrificed. Factory workers and women who were not only raising families without their husbands home, but they worked in plants to support the war effort. It was citizens who bought war bonds and prayed every night for their loved ones that they'd come home just like Mom. Each had a role to play, and virtually all rose to the challenge. I think we see that spirit of sacrifice alive and well today in our fighting men and women in Afghanistan and Iraq. To me, they are freedom's greatest ambassadors, warriors, willing to sacrifice all, including their own safety, for all of us, for a greater good. We must never be oblivious to their sacrifice or fail to remember the generations that came before. We too, as individual citizens and civilians, we too must be willing to sacrifice for the good of our state and for the good of our country. You know, many in America have been trained to believe that we can have what we want when we want it. But at the core of being a Texan, the core of being an American, is not what we get back from society, is what we can give. For most of us Texans, the question is not what government can do for us, but what we can do if government will just get out of the way. Because we all know that government cannot replace the role of parents and families, cannot legislate personal responsibility, cannot replace the private sector in creating jobs, and cannot govern an individual's life better than his own conscience. Texas still offers the promise of a better tomorrow, where a little boy or a little girl can grow up with nothing, work hard, and have the storybook ending they would never imagine in their ever as a child. I know. It's my story. And it's a story of millions of you and other Texans who've lived the American dream in this state of Texas, so abundant with opportunity. Those who sacrifice, those who persevere, those who dust off the dust on their boots when they get knocked down, they get back up. They're the ones who know the meaning of the American dream, the Texas dream. The promise of Texas is a light on the distant horizon, piercing the darkness. It's a promise available to any and all of us if we're willing to work hard, sacrifice, and never give up. I think this has never been more true than today. With the thousands of new pilgrims settling here every day in Texas, in this modern promised land called Texas. We who have inherited that promise must preserve and protect it. We must never allow its light to lose its luster. We must be united in our quest for a better Texas, a Texas rich in values, abundant in opportunity, wealthy in spirit. One people, one star, one destiny. God bless the great state of Texas. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.